Welcome back for the second segment of the March 25th Trips and Traps. Andy Serling, Eric Donovan.
And we got two more races to bring you, both from Saturday. We're going to take a look at the sixth race from Saturday. This was a non-winners of one allowance for 4-year-olds. And up a small field here, and we touched on this race on Thoroughbred Weekly. We're taking a look at the 3, City Fest.
Yeah, the most important thing about this race is that the pace was a virtual crawl fest. If you go back and look at the paces for the other 6 furlong races, this was far and away the slowest pace, and it was one of the better groups of horses on the feature that were sprinting, actually.
Absolutely, and you see even behind the slow pace, number 3, City Fest, getting into a bit of a jam there, having to steady underneath Victor Santiago, and you see the eventual winner of the race, the 4, Pay in Kind, just to City Fest outside, and you're going to see the difference in the trips the 2 gets right about here. City Fest is still checking and steadying, while Pay in Kind's kind of getting up into the race, and Pay in Kind's a horse that's in absolutely career form right now.
Right, they're making no mistake. Pay in Kind far and away ran the best race in here. We're not suggesting City Fest was going to win this race, but City Fest, who's about to leave the screen, the pink, and sort of briefly and coming back on, City Fest has some speed. That's what I don't understand. When this horse won a race 4 back, it was right off a very, very hot pace. This race was a crawl fest, and the horse who's sitting on the lead was a new gelding for Steve Asmussen, who had 3 buyer figures of 70, not even competitive in the field, was somehow the second choice after being almost a favorite for some of the betting in the race, and actually, this horse will never win Papa's Pick if it cannot win, setting this slow pace in this race. Pay in Kind was impressive, but City Fest was leaving the screen and swung out wide there. Believe me, this horse had absolutely no chance the way the race was run.
Yeah, I agree. Pace-wise up against it, trouble-wise steadying on the backstretch up against it, and also losing ground coming off the turn up against it in 3 regards here. And, like you said earlier, this is a pretty good feel for this level.
I agree, and City Fest is a better horse than he looks now. Now, I realize his form had tailed off, but he had some excuses in New York bred stakes in his prior 2 starts. He had a little bit of time off into this race, but as the race unfolded and the dynamics, he had absolutely no chance whatsoever. I look forward to getting another chance with City Fest, and I'm hoping he gets in a similar type spot. Obviously, he won't have to deal with Pay in Kind again because of the conditions, but in a similar type spot, first of all, a little more speed might help, but hopefully he can use his speed so it doesn't really matter.
One more race to do, and this is the 7th race from Saturday. This is a maiden special weight for New York bred fillies and mares, and we're going to take a look at a first-time starter and here the 2, Spancel Hill. This race was won by a long shot first of the 7, I'm a Mosaic Rocker, but we see the 2, Spancel Hill, get off to a slow beginning here.
Right. This was a race where going in, you wanted to be leery of the firsters, but they didn't take money, and one of the reasons they didn't take much money, and you'll see Spancel Hill leaving the picture, we'll catch up with him later, is because you had a number of horses getting bet strongly in here. I'm a Queen of Queens was taking a ton of money in this race. Precious Pride took a ton of money in this race. Street Talk took a reasonable amount of money. This is a field of money burners, as you're going to see. Horses that have burned money in the past, burned money in this race, and will burn your money again if you follow them in the future.
Now keep your eye on the 9, I'm the Queen of Queens, probably the biggest suspect in that group of money burners. And I'm the Queen of Queens is working out a pretty nice trip here behind a pace that's starting to develop a little bit more. Long shot Lanyap on the lead and getting pressed now by a Precious Pride, but I'm the Queen of Queens in that perfect spot. We see I'm a Mosaic Rocker, the winner of the race, go 4 wide with the white cap, and all the way toward the back of the pack is Spancel Hill, who's just getting into action here. Spots the field some ground before making his move here, but as you see through the stretch, he really didn't have any excuses coming for home. I would have thought that even with the loss of position that he had over the winner of the race, that he still should have been able to, or she still should have been able to make that up and win the race.
I agree with you. Obviously, everything said and done, she was best in here. We saw what happened to start, but I agree with you. She has some hang in her. You see her down the stretch, and don't forget, the winner's a first-time starter at 33-1, and it's not exactly a remarkable group, and Spancel Hill had the whole stretch to get by her, and I'm wondering if she's about to join the group of I'm a Queen of Queens, Street Talk, and all the others in here of burning some money in the future, because this was the day she was supposed to get it done. Next time she runs, even against the same field, she's going to be in the 2-1 range, and she might win because she's more lightly raced, but I'm a little dubious of her. But the one thing that really you take away from this race is I'm a Queen of Queens. When and if she wins a race, let her beat you. Street Talk, the same way. The Bruce Levine horse, Precious Pride, who took a lot of money at 2-1. Don't think that'll happen again, but let that horse beat you. Look for the new faces next time they meet. I realize we sound like we're redboarding, or I am, because the winner was 33-1, and I didn't like that horse. But the point is, when you have horses that have been short prices week in and week out and have perfect trips and no excuses, stay away from them.
That's very sound advice, and we'll certainly be seeing lots more of these horses before we leave Aqueduct. I guarantee they'll be starting at least once, maybe even twice more before we head over to Belmont, and they still could take money when we go over to Belmont as well.
Yeah, they will take money. And look, they're going to win. Sometimes these horses win, but as a horse player, let these horses that have had had 6, 7 chances, a lot of races at short prices. Be your friends at the windows. Take chances. You will get rewarded over time. And when they win, so they win. But they stick around and lose usually a lot longer.
Well, that does it for our installment of Trips and Traps here today. Remember the email address tripsandtraps@nairainc.com, and we'll be back in another week with the April Fool's Day edition of Trips and Traps. So stay tuned. Maybe we'll have some April Fool's opinions.
Yes, we will. I'm sure we'll have at least some foolish ones.